the Pharisees come, hey, what's the greatest commandment?
Yeah.
And Jesus really summarizes the law perfectly in just 2 statements. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. And the second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. Who's gonna argue with that?
That sums up the whole law.
Right, it does. On these 2 hang all the law and the prophets is what he says. So the Lamb is being questioned and he's being examined during that, and then everything changes. He goes from being on the defensive, if you will, to he goes on the offensive in Matthew chapter 22 and then into chapter 23. He really goes on the offensive. So he says, hey, let me ask you a question about the Messiah, the Christ. Whose son is he? And they're like, well, of course, he's David's son. That's prophesied. He's the son of David. And Jesus said, how come David said, how can he call him Lord?
Because David called him Lord.
David calls the Messiah Lord.
How can it be his son?
How could it be a son? And they thought, wait a second. Not only are you claiming to be the son of David, you're also claiming to be
the Lord, the Son of God.
You're claiming to be God.
Wow.
And then he goes on the offensive. If you read through Matthew 23, it's woe to you, scribes and Pharisees,
Yes.
hypocrites, and he calls them really some extremely offensive names. So the people who think that Jesus never said anything harsh or
offensive to
or
people.
mean-spirited,
He was so
or-
loving and kind.
Right.
And
He called them blind guides. He called them whitewashed tombs. What is that? That's saying, hey, on the outside, you look nice and neat, but on the inside, you're full of dead men's bones and uncleanness.
Wow.
That is extremely offensive to the Jewish mindset. And it should be for us, too, if we're called that. And then he calls them serpents and brood of vipers. So he is really letting them have it here and explaining who he is. And then, after that's all done, we still see his heart. We see him come out and he says, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the one who kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to her. How often I wanted to gather your children together as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, but you were not willing. See, your house is left to you desolate, for I say you shall see me no more till you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. And so we see that he still has this love for people, even though he has just really blasted them. But he still has that heart and that concern for people to come to know him.